Usual, my laptop hasn't caught up yet, so we're gonna wait
Yeah.
because we probably will have chat here. So welcome in everybody. Today is the promised program live stream on Psalms 82 with my son Jeremy, and we're going to tie up some things here. Psalms 82, the meaning of gods and what's going on there, and tie it into world events. So welcome as you come in. Hopefully this is of interest to you. So those of you who aren't really in favor of scriptural spiritual studies, this is your invitation to go ahead and clock out, and we'll certainly understand. That's not a problem. And I always give that up front so that you can go about your business if you really don't want to partake in this. And I don't blame you. It's really not a problem if you don't. This is just for people that want to have this conversation. So welcome as you come in. Today is, of course, the 26th. I had to look at my watch. The 26th of February 2023. And I have Jeremy on the line already. Now I have that
Hello,
external,
everybody.
yeah, I have that external speaker, but it's a little muffled and we're not sure why. So I'm going to ask after he starts talking. I'll let him start talking after I do a little introduction here, and then we'll find out if we can adjust the sound or if we need to. And I'm not certain that we'll be able to. I would hope so, but I'm not certain we'll be able to do that. Yeah, I should be 5x5. Hey, Roy, I'm having trouble with my wife of 24 years. Well, yeah, I can kind of understand that. After that long a time, you have to almost get the spark rekindled, and that's why I talk about the definition of lust so often, because it's been misconstrued, it's been vilified, and unrightly so. Just like any fire, to get a fire going, you have to have a spark, and there's nothing wrong with the spark. It's how you use it, like anything else. So that's the whole point of the thing here. And all right, well, it doesn't look like this is going to cooperate. Dang it! So maybe we're not going to be able to use the chat after all. And you know everybody how that goes. All right, well, let me go ahead and get started because I'm not sure why it's doing this. But we'll just go ahead and get started. So you say I'm 5x5. Jeremy, give us a little introduction of yourself, so that we can see how people can hear you. Okay.
Oh, sure. So my name's Jeremy. I'm Roy's son. I've been introduced into, my dad's always been into research and everything through the Bible and all the aspects of life. And I really got into it probably about 2012, 2013, something like that. And my son, he told me, hey, Dad, you should start reading the Bible. So, one day I was like, okay, and I did, and I couldn't put it down. I read the whole thing in about 4 months, probably understood about 10% of it and didn't understand much else. But through time and research, everything started coming to me and clicking, and I started writing all kinds of different writings, and I actually have a little YouTube channel where I've posted all my writings there, and really got fascinated with Psalms 82 from listening to Dr. Michael Heiser, and here we are now today. I'm going to talk about it as it pertains to all the things going on in the world today that we see. So I hope this is informative for everyone. I think it's going to be real exciting, to be honest.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Now I'm just going to ask everybody: can you hear him, or is there a problem with? Because I noticed there's a little fuzz in the background, and it's a little muffled. But everybody, just let me know if at least you can understand what he's saying, because I think that's what I need to know. It is muffled, I know that, but can you understand what he's saying? We have another thing we can do if we have to, but it's he's trying to use a headset with a microphone in the ear so that he can read and comment on what he has prepared. It's a little muffled, but can you understand what he says? 4x5, okay, I think we can go with that. So let's go ahead and try it. Like I said, the chat's on for everybody. You all can understand. You understand, well, it is hard to hear. Yeah. And I kind of figured it might be. There's something about his headset that's it puts in a baritone sound, so I'm not really quite muffled. Move the mic away from his mouth on the headset. Well, he can't do that. It's in his ear.
Oh,
But see if you can do that, Jeremy.
try.
Yeah, try to move it away maybe just a little bit and see if
Yeah,
that
let
works.
me.
Believe it or not, everybody, we played with this earlier today, but we knew there'd be some last minute things to have to take care of.
How's this?
That's lots better.
This
Yeah,
sounds a lot better.
that's a lot better.
Okay.
You just talk normal. I'm going to turn up the volume on my side. Just give me a count to 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that's 5x5 they're saying now. Okay, whatever it was. Thank you, whoever told us to do that. That's exactly what worked. So let me go ahead and get going here so I don't waste a whole lot of time. We're going to do Psalms 82, and a lot of people might want to know why we would do that. Well, the reason is because it has everything to do with what's happening in the world, and it really gives us an understanding of, if you believe in the Bible, if you take the Bible as, something that's of importance. I do, but I also have caveats with it, but that's okay. I check things out, we study, we check it out whether it makes sense or not. And that's basically a personal thing by and large. However, there are certain things that are pretty much set in stone. And this Psalms 82 is one of them. I think you'll find this interesting. I'm going to read it real quick. It's very short, and it'll take me about maybe a minute to read it to you. If you have a Bible, with an Old and New Testament, go ahead and turn to Psalms 82 and read along with me. Like I say, this will just take a minute. And then I'm also going to read John, the Gospel of John, verses 34 and 35. Okay? So here we go. Let's read Psalms 82 together. And this is what's setting the stage for what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods, plural. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked, Selah? Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not. Now he's talking about these gods that are the judges of the earth. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. I have said, this is God talking, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, and thou shalt inherit all nations. Now, about a month ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that, I read this and also showed you what the Hebrew words are. And it is God and gods, okay? There's no question that that's what this is. They're not naming the gods in this particular verse, this particular chapter. It doesn't say YHVH. It doesn't say Lord of Hosts. It doesn't say I am that I am. It says God and gods, okay? And it's the same word. El is used once, but Elohim is used most of the time. That's important, and I explained that before. I'm not going to get into that today, but I wanted to just tell you that the way people have interpreted this for a long time they've actually not been telling you everything about it. I'm not saying they've deliberately deceived you. In some cases they have, but in others they just don't understand. It's like I said, we're a family, and that's the important part. John 10. Right. Let's read John 10 real quick, and then we'll kind of get into the meat of the discussion here. Okay, John 10. 34 and 35 for those of you who want to follow along. Okay, here we go. He's talking to the To the scribes and Pharisees, of course, and he's talking to some other people, and he's talking about being the good shepherd. Then it says, Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt if thou be the Christ? Tell us plainly. Now I'm going to jump down to verses 34 and 35. How many times have I been accused of blasphemy? It's so interesting. And because thou, being a man, makest thyself God. Well, listen to what Jesus' answer is to here. This is John 10, 34, 35. Jesus answered them, Is it not written in your law? We just read it, Psalms 82. I said, Ye are gods. If he, God, called them gods unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken. That's very important, because not only was it said in the Old Testament, it's said in the New. We're told that we're members of this family of gods, all of us. And as Michael Heiser said, God bless him, he passed away just this last week. Jeremy actually put me on to Dr. Heiser some time ago, Dr. Michael Heiser. He talks about Jesus being not the only begotten in the sense that he's the only son that God had, but that he was the chosen one. He was the special one, and that's what the word in the Greek actually means. That's according to Dr. Heiser, and of course that's how I've understood this as well.
Right,
and that's
he's
also
a language expert. He's an expert in language.
Right.
So
Right. So that's where we are, and the point of Psalms 82 is that these people that have taken control in the world today are not taking care of the needy. They've become self-absorbed. They want power. They want empire. And it talks about, as I said, the assembly here of the gods, the council of the gods, which is also evident, as I've shown in Genesis 1:1, where it talks about the Elohim et, okay? And I explained that you can look at that Elohim as the same thing as like Congress. In other words, you can talk in the singular by saying Congress did this and Congress did that. And this is the same kind of thing in Genesis. The Jews try to explain it away as just say that Elohim means they use the plural because it's so much more expansive and shows the importance and power. But in reality, even with the singular verb of the bara, in other words, created, the fact of the matter is that it's talking about this assembly or this council, which Psalms 82 explains. So with that background, let me tell you a couple of other things so that you'll know where we're headed. We're going to try to cover three main things here today, and then we'll probably open the chat up, but I'm not sure. Jeremy says he's got, don't worry, I'm not going to hold you for 4 hours. He says he probably has 4 hours worth of material. We're going to go for a little under 2, because the mind can absorb only what the seat can endure. And we'll follow it up later if we have to, okay? But these are the three main points that we want to make today. That what's going on in the world today is a mirror of the war in heaven. The war in heaven that happened on the spiritual plane is also happening on the physical plane, and Jeremy will explain that. The fact that there are gods. There's not just one. There is a supreme, but it has something to do with this council situation and the one who's unique, who's selected. Okay, and then of course we're going to talk about the God will take on the nations, and the Tower of Babel, where he divided the people and the judges and the gods and all of that. Jeremy, it's called Jeremy will get into that. So those are kind of the three things that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to shut up at this point, and we're going to let Jeremy take it from here, and he's going to explain, first of all, why this is what's going on in the world today is just an extension of this council in heaven, where the rulers who are gods, and we all are, were told that they need to do righteously, and the fact is they're not. And so he's going to have to take action. So we're going to start off there. Jeremy, take it away.
Yeah, okay. So the first thing that I want to do to open this up is go to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. that literally is everything. Every single thing from all of our lives to what's going on in the world to what's going on in the heavenly, that is everything. Every verse after that is just an expansion of Genesis 1:1. And what I would like to say, here's something my dad always says. Oh, I'm going to say this, and it's going to tick off a lot of people. So, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's not like, oh, you have to believe me or whatever. It's just what I understand is to be truth, and this is the first evidence of the divine counsel, and that's Genesis 1:26. And it says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. That's divine counsel speaking. Because who is he speaking to? He's saying, let us, the Elohim, because Elohim, when you read God in the Bible, capital G, that's Elohim, but it's also little g, God. It's just God and God means spiritual being. They all have certain attributes, but none of them have the attributes that our Father in heaven has. He is the only one who has the attributes that he has, as in being able to create things out from nothing. None of the other Elohim can do that. But anyway, for me, that's the first verse that we can read in the Bible of divine counsel speech.
Hey, Jeremy, let me ask you a question real quick, because when I bring this up, people say that I'm teaching Gnosticism. What's your response to that?
Well, my response to that is people can believe whatever they want. They can call you crazy or whatever they want, but because a lot of people use that verse for the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But that's really is not what's happening here. God is like I've said before, God created all of us, the angels, humanity, everything, to participate in what he's doing. And that's what he's doing here in Genesis 1:26, is he's giving the opportunity for them to participate in what he's doing. So, hey, let's make man in our image. Of course, and this is different levels of understanding. That's another thing that people want to argue about, when you can literally be talking about the same thing, but you're speaking on a different level of understanding, and that's where I think a lot of conflict happens. Is you can be speaking on one level of understanding, and the other person's on another level, and so it doesn't quite click, but it does at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if I can interrupt here again, I gave some information, you may have seen it, Jeremy, where I showed what the word for image is. God made man in his own God made man in his own image, male and female made he them. That word for image expressly states what it says later about what we are to do. We are to have dominion over the earth and take care of it and judge righteously. So that word is zelem, and it actually means that they've translated into image. It shows what we are to do. We're supposed to have God's attributes of righteous judgment and control over the dominion. So exactly.
Right, and in my opinion, in my understanding, and this is something else that we kind of need to clear up a little bit too, is there's two different, if you will, angel problem. First, we have the fall of the wicked, but then there's another incursion which happens in Genesis 6 with the watcher angels. So anyways, in my opinion, in Genesis, the first chapter of Genesis, the fall of what we would call the fallen angels has already occurred. You know, God is forever past, forever future. This isn't. Let's put it like this. This isn't his first rodeo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me interrupt you again here, Jeremy, because there are a couple of people that come on my chat and then they throw scriptures out trying to argue and debate whatever's being said. And this one coming from
Right.
Maurice Wilson. And I've had some issues with Maurice before. And I'm just going to say this to you, Maurice, okay? You're not listening, you're moving your lips, okay? Listen and try to understand. And as I've said before, a lot of the scriptures out there are misinterpreted because of language problems and other reasons. And I know you don't want to accept that. But the fact of the matter is that what we're talking about now is in the Bible. And you're saying, well, man has not seen God at any time. Well, what did Abraham do? What did Moses do? Okay, so that statement is definitely not true. It's Hellenization that was done by the enemies. Okay, I just wanted to address Maurice because he's always throwing stuff out there. And we're not going to discuss each one of those verses, Maurice. And I'd suggest that you put down your typing fingers and give a listen for a change. And that's the last time I'm going to address you today. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Right, sure. We can clear that up with the birth of Samson. His parents see the angel of the Lord, and when the angel of the Lord departs from them, he tells his wife, "Oh wow, we're gonna die. We just saw God." So they did see God.
So why is there a verse that says man has never seen God at any time? Why was that thrown into the New Testament? And I'll answer my own rhetoric, Jeremy. It's because they were trying to destroy the Torah at that point. The whole purpose of the Romans and the Herodians and Paul, Maurice, was to destroy the Torah and to destroy the foundations of Israel and the God of Israel. And you don't even realize it. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to address him again. Go ahead, Jeremy.
And not only that, Moses would go into the tabernacle, and his face was glowing to the people. He even had to cover his face because why? He saw God. He was communing with God. He was talking with God.
Exactly.
Anyways, here we go right here. Judges 13. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Why askest thus? Why ask about my name, seeing it is secret? So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it upon a rock unto the Lord. And the angel did wondrously. And Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on and looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, We shall surely die, because we have seen God. This angel of the Lord is what Michael Heiser talks about of the God on earth, and there's a God in heaven. There's the two gods. And why is that? It's because God is not going to he's not going to not be a part of his creation.
Yeah, hold on, Jeremy. They're asking where you're reading from. It's out of Judges. Legacy of Catastrophe. It's in Judges about Samson. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Judges 13. Yep. Yeah, Judges 13, where this is before Samson is born. This is when, because Manoah's wife she can't have kids, and the angel of the Lord, which is God, comes to her and says, "Hey, you're going to have a child," and he gives her instructions to not do this, not do that. Don't cut your son's hair. That's his strength. And then it's funny how they tell us, "Oh, a man with long hair, it's a shame to him."
That was Paul that said that, and I brought that up in a video not too long ago, showing that Paul was at odds with James, because James was the one with and the Essenes, of course, the true first Christians. So Paul's attacking James and the Jerusalem assembly. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Okay. So before we get into the actual Psalms 82, I feel like we're going to clear up a little bit about fallen angels and the Nephilim. Okay. In Genesis, the first chapter of Genesis, the fall of the fallen angels has already occurred. So what happens in Genesis 6 is separate. It's the watcher angels. They were charged to, participate in what God's doing, and so He gives instructions to these watcher angels to, hey, watch what's going on in the earth and let me know what's going on. Well, they saw the daughters of men and desired them and did something that they weren't supposed to do, and so that's where the Nephilim came from. Was that union between these fallen angels? They're separate. They're separate from what we would all know as the fallen angels. And another thing is when we see the word Satan or the devil in the Bible, it's usually not talking about a specific entity. What it's speaking of is all of them. They're all little Satans. They're all little devils. And that's shown in Job, which let me see if I can find it here. You know what I'm talking about, where God goes up to Satan and says, "Hey, oh, here we."
Yeah, yes, Satan. What he's doing, he says, "Oh, going to and fro in the earth,"
that's divine counsel talk right there. Yeah, here we go. Job 1:6. Now there was a day.
Okay, hold on. One more thing. This is another thing. People are making an issue that this Jimbo Khan is saying there's no talk in the Bible of fallen angels before besides Genesis 6. Actually, it says, actually, you have to understand what it's saying in the Hebrew. In fact, it does talk about the fallen angels before. It says, in those days there were giants in the earth. So in fact, they had already been down with the women at that time. That was so Genesis 6 is catching up on what's been going on the earth for all that time. So you have to look at it from that respect. And
okay,
also,
and I should have probably cleared this up first.
One other thing, it doesn't say fallen angels. It says B'nai Elohim, or sons of God. That's what it says.
Right. Yep. And that's something else that we should clear up. So you can look in the chat when I ask this. What is the reason that we're in the situation that we're in now, as in being on this earth with all this stuff? What caused it? What happened? Why are we here? And I'm sure you're going to look in the chat and they're going to see the fall of Adam and Eve. What's the reason that we're here? And in this predicament, in this fallen state? I'm sure people would agree that it's the fall of Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah, they haven't gotten to it yet, Jeremy, but it's
okay.
lagging behind a little bit.
No, it's fine. I'm sure everybody would agree that that's the reason that we're in this predicament, in this fallen state, is the fall of Adam and Eve. But more than that, it's the fall of Adam and Eve, which leads to Cain and Abel. And Cain, which you've talked about before, is the seed of the wicked one who snuck into the garden, and he kills his brother Abel. So first there's the fall, and then there's Genesis 6, because if it wasn't for Cain, it wouldn't have been possible for Genesis 6 to happen, which leads to the Tower of Babel, which is what's ultimately going to lead to what we're talking about right now, so Psalms 82, where in the Tower of Babel, God divorces the nations, and he says, okay, you guys want to do all this stuff unrighteously, you want to not do the will of what we're supposed to do. And all the people are following these false gods, which even God calls them gods. He doesn't even call them false gods. But so that's really the predicament that we're in, is the fall of Adam and Eve, then Genesis 6, which leads to the Tower of Babel, and God disperses or divorces the nations. And he says, okay, you guys can all go do your thing, and I'm going to take Abram, and I will make, through Abraham, I will gather the nations back to myself.
Let me interrupt one more time, Jeremy. People are having a hard time understanding this. Getting from Epicus 2:0, he says, no, Adam fell by eating the fruit, not by the evil son who is Cain. Jeremy's not saying that Adam fell because of the evil son of Cain. He's saying that Cain was the result of the actual first transgression that occurred, is what he's saying. So,
right.
And if you remember, Adam didn't have to fall. Adam chose to fall because he was in love with his wife Eve. He made the decision. He was not deceived. So Epicus 2:0, again, I think you need to listen a little closer. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Right. So, yeah, and you know, I'm kind of excited here, but at the same time, I want to be informative. So, let's see. With Psalms 82, the what we can see in this world is a reflection of what's happening in heaven, because these other gods are trying to usurp God, which he wants us to be, to judge righteously and be and to love him and to love our neighbors as ourselves. Whereas we can plainly see that the rulers of this world are only about themselves. And so that war that is in heaven being projected onto the earth, us being able to, for a lot of people, it's really hard to even see that. But I'm sure most of the people listening can agree that the rulers of this world don't have our best interest at heart, for sure.
Yeah, it even says that in Psalms 82. They don't take care of the needy. They steal from them. They abuse them. Those types of things. It actually describes the horrible things that they do in Psalms 82, and we're seeing that in the world today, especially right now. Including the whole world being deceived by the pharmakia of the rich men. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Right. So, let's see. I think this probably would pertain to it. The destruction of Israel. God allowed foreign nations to come to destroy Israel because they were they've turned away from God. And when you're reading, in the Bible about all this stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, how could all this happen? But it really turns out for good, because at the Tower of Babel, God divorced the nations, and he calls Abram and tells him, through you I will gather the nations back to myself. So, in the time of Israel, when it was destroyed, what happened? The nation of Israel is dispersed out into the other nations, and it looks bad because a lot of bad things happened, but in reality, it really works for the good, because now we as children of God can participate in what he's doing in gathering the nations back to him, as in doing what we're doing right now, talking about it, spreading the word, spreading what we've learned and what we see as truth, and then people hear it, just like in Genesis, God spoke and things came into being. That's what we do. We speak and we listen and we hear, and we learn, and we understand, and in speaking and in listening, we turn and gather the nations back to God. Does that make sense?
I think so, and don't lose your thought there, Jeremy, but again, there's some issue over Cain here, saying that people don't think that he was the descendant of this Ophidian. Ophidian means serpent, by the way, in the Garden of Eden. And of course we've talked about it, Michael Heiser's talked about it. It's a divine being. It's not deity, but it's a divine being. And I've explained why it's hidden that Cain is not outright discussed as the son of this Ophidian. I've explained that in prior videos, and I'll just make it short here. I'm not going to get into any detail. It's not. I've told you that the Hebrews honored the mothers, their women, and even in the case of Sarah, where there's some issues, that's Abraham's wife. They don't usually talk in a derogatory manner to the women. In this situation with Eve, first of all, as I've explained, there are actually 3 different women there according to the legends and other writings.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they believe that or not, we just go with a single woman. The fact is that the scripture says, and Adam knew his wife Eve, and she bare Cain, right? But then what did Eve say? And this is important to understand. You can go back and look at it. It says, Eve doesn't say, I've gotten a man from the Lord, from Adam. I haven't gotten a son for Adam. I've gotten a man from the Lord. Okay?
Right.
That's an incredibly important statement to talk, that's showing what was going on there. And that's why adultery is such a horrible offense. And people can't make that tie into what happened in the Garden of Eden. So that's the first thing I'd say. I just wanted to bring that up real quick. And then the offering of Cain, people say, well, you know, he wasn't accepted, and they wonder why. Well, the reason is because the blood issue. If you believe in Jesus Christ, if you hold that up, you should understand why Adam's sacrifice, or Abel's sacrifice, was accepted by shedding the blood of the lamb, and Cain's sacrifice of his vegetable garden was not. If you don't understand that, then you really don't understand your own religion, and what you think you know. So the reason why Cain's was not accepted was because it did not assimilate, it did not simulate the shedding of the blood of God's Son. That in your theology. So I just wanted to cover that real quick. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, sure. Not only that, what the case comes down to is, why does it give 2 different bloodlines in Genesis, one of Cain's and one of Seth?
Right, exactly.
Like, it gives 2 different bloodlines there, so
And
it's right there in the Bible.
Right, and the line of Seth is not to marry the line of Cain, and that has a lot to do with a question that came up about Esau the other day. I had an individual say to me, you know, that Jacob was a false prophet, and you know, he stole the birthright from his brother Esau and was a deceiver. And I explained, no, you don't understand. Esau married into the forbidden line of Cain, and he lost his birthright the moment he did that. And then secondly, if that weren't enough, he sold his birthright for the bowl of porridge that Jacob offered him. So because Isaac was just so adamant that it would go to Esau, yeah, there was some subterfuge there, but in fact Esau had abrogated his birthright, both in his marriage selections and in the fact that he sold that birthright for a bowl of porridge. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Right. So, like, all of that's even, if people can believe whatever they want. It's not like a major issue. It's just kind of pointing out what the Bible actually says.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's not an issue of salvation. I agree with that. But what it is it's entering into a level of understanding that helps you to get a bigger understanding of the picture. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's fine. And that shows a division. Jesus talks about the wheat and the tares. Well, what is that? That's the seed of the wicked and the seed of God in the battle against each other. And the evil know it. They believe it. These wicked people, they pray more to God than we do, who are the children of the God. You know, they worship their God more than God's children worship Him, especially in these days. You know, and speaking of the wheat and the tares, that's the battle between good and evil. But all have the hand of salvation stretched out to them. But some people are going to take that hand, and some people are not going to take that hand.
Yeah, and then there are parameters too. When Jesus was talking to those very people you're talking about, he said that in the resurrection, for instance, they would not have certain blessings that his own family would. I won't get into that here, but that was another example of just what you said, Jeremy.
Right. And this battle, this war in heaven projected onto the earth, and God giving us opportunity to participate in what He's doing. You know, you don't have to, but you know, he gave me a little. I wouldn't want to call it a vision, but it's one of those things that just pops into your head. And what he showed me was like standing in the heavenly realm, and Him pointing down to the earth and saying, you know, let's just put it to everybody. Let's just say He's done it with everybody. He takes you to look down on the earth, and He says, hey, my son, hey, my daughter, you're going to go down there. All are appointed to go down to this world. And all I need you to do is open the door when you go into this place. Just open the door for this person. And for somebody else, he might say, boy, you are gonna get treated like garbage over there. But I need you to go do all of this stuff for me. So it could be as simple as opening the door for somebody to
doing something major like giving your life for somebody to save theirs.
Yep. Mm-hmm, yep.
And we have an issue here, real quick, Jeremy. I'm going to address, and I probably shouldn't jump into the chat, but we're still on this idea of Cain's bloodline. People don't understand how Cain's bloodline could survive the flood when the Scripture says that Noah's bloodline gets through. Well, yeah, Noah was perfect in his generations, but who were the wives of Noah's sons? Okay, who were they, and why did they allow that seed to come back through the flood? You'll notice that it says that in Genesis 6 that there were giants in the earth in those days and prior, it says, and then on down it talks about the Anak, the king Anak, who descended from the giants and had giants himself. So how did he get across the flood? Well, again, it was through the lines of the mother, and it was in the design of God. I'm sure I don't pretend to know all the things that were going on there, but it's obvious that if Noah was perfect in his generations, then there was something about one of his sons and one of his wives, one of the son's wives, that brought that seed through, and it was obviously by design. Sorry to interrupt again, Jeremy.
No, it's fine. Yeah, like when you're reading in the Old Testament, when after the Israelites come out of Egypt, God has them war against what? The Canaanites, the Philistines, the Amorites. Who are these people? And they're called giants. They're called the Joshua has some of his guys go into the land of Canaan, and they come back and say, oh my gosh, they're like cedar trees. What are we going to do? We're like grasshoppers to them. That's not a normal human being. That's
right.
That's the Nephilim. That's the where do we get the Goliath? Goliath's the giant.
Right. He was
right?
one of the Anaks, yeah, for sure.
Right. So and that again, all of that's divine counsel. That's the good versus evil. So I was going to Let me see here. I wanted to find Job, where he's talking about where God's saying, "Oh, where you been?" And he says, "Oh, I've been to and fro in the earth and all that." Let's see. Okay, Job 1:6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them.
So here we are in Psalms 82 again, right, Jeremy?
Right, yeah, Yep, this is Psalms 82 right here.
Job
And
1:6.
the Lord said to Satan, what's that?
Job 1:6, you said?
Yeah, Job 6.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Job 1 verse 6.
All right, and it's talking about the sons of God again being this counsel of God in Psalms 82. Okay, go ahead.
Right, and so Job 1:7 to continue. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and walking up and down on it. So, in my opinion, I don't believe that God is talking to one specific entity. He's speaking to all of them, all of the little Satans. You know, it's a community. That's why there's it's not just one. It's all of them. The one that we would call Satan or the devil, or that's Hillel ben Shakar, but he has a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of them. It's not just one.
Right.
Like in Psalms 22, it would be this is like a reference of when Jesus comes, and it says that many bulls have compassed me, strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They gaped upon me with their mouths as a ravening and roaring lion. See, that's talking about the little devils. You know, when Jesus is going through what he's going to go through, he in my estimation, he can see into the spirit realm, and you know there's a lot going on the cross that we don't see, and of course the wicked didn't understand what was going on there, but that's what's happening. There's all the bulls of Bashan. If anybody looks into what Bashan is, they'll get a big understanding of what's going on there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying, and I think that's been a point of misunderstanding for a long time. People don't understand what the Bashan is, and it had to do exactly with what you're talking about. There were some people, the Bashan area, and they were those types of people, and they became mockers and troublemakers. Really, is what that's all about. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and they're. People can admit it to themselves, or they don't have to. It really doesn't matter, because it's still a fact. There are two bloodlines on this world, and throughout time, of course, the bloodlines have spilled into each other, and that's the whole idea of redemption and all of that stuff. The purification of the blood. God makes a big deal about blood, you know, in the Old Testament.
Yeah, the genealogy is very important, and I've talked about that quite a bit, but it's really hard for people to grasp that, especially in today's politically correct environment. You know, you can only take it so far with a lot of people. But on this issue, getting back to the problems in the world, Jeremy, if you don't mind me jumping back to that, this war going on, this you know, here Satan and his minions are walking to and fro, and they're in the assembly of the gods, talking about what they're going to do, and then God's telling them, you know, oh well, look, you know, if you really want to go test one of my own, go test Job. So in fact, what's happening right now is that these same satanic, and I'm just using that name just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. I could use the actual one, but then it might confuse people. The actual satanic forces that were at work in heaven, in that war in heaven, are now here, and we're seeing them do those things, and our job is to not to be fooled by them, not to go into their company, not to go into their ways of doing things, and in fact to call them out as Jesus called them out, and the serpents and the vipers in his day. Would you say that that's what Psalms 82 is about? Is that, again, this dividing of the wheat from the tares, dividing the seed of really what it comes down to is the seed of Seth from the seed of Cain. Would you go along with that?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So that's where we are in the world today, and I'm not sure which side is winning. Of course, God wins in the end, but exactly what happens in the process of that doesn't look too pretty. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and one thing that we could say is through our weakness is actually where our strength comes from. Like right now in this world, it's like everybody's being pinned down. The boot is on your neck, but that's really the time where your strength is revealed, is in that moment. And I kind of think that that's where we're at right now. One thing that I wanted to talk about through Psalms 82, the war in heaven and on earth, is that in the U.S. Back in the old days when the U.S. was just starting, the schools were to teach God's word, the Bible, to the children, and now we come out believing in evolution and are even atheistic. That's showing the warp. Like back in the day where there was the wholesomeness and goodness, we were teaching our children God's word. Now they come out of school believing in evolution and don't even believe in God anymore.
Well, it's even worse than that. They come out believing that there's no such thing as men and women, boys and girls, all that business now, right?
Right.
Which is just another level of attack, which, again, as I pointed out, really started there in the Edenic situation.
Right. Let's see. I'll give another example of Psalms 82, and it's in 1 Kings chapter 22 and verse 20, and it's about Ahab. And Ahab's doing unrighteously, and so let's go ahead and read it. And the Lord said, "Who shall persuade Ahab that he might go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead?" And one said, "On this manner," and another said, "On that manner." And there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, "I will persuade him." And the Lord said unto him, "Wherewith?" And he said, "I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets." And he said, "Thou shalt persuade him, and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning thee," about Ahab. So I find that really, really curious, because when and this is just throwing something out there because everybody thinks, "Oh, I know God, I know all about everything," But what did God do here? He put a lying tongue in the mouth of of Ahab's prophets. Am I the only one that gets struck by that?
Well, we've talked about that before. I think Jeremy. It actually came up in the name of the Tetragrammaton some time ago, where people look up in Strong's the breakdown. They'll take there's a Yod Hey Vav Hey, and they'll take the Yod or the Hey Vav Hey, and they'll say, "Oh, that means destruction. So this is the God of destruction," but they don't look at the other word that says the existing one. So, but what we're seeing there is that God, just as He says, I think it's in I think it's in Psalms, that he creates good and evil. And they'll say, no, he doesn't do that. Well, here's an example of where he let it happen, right? So yeah,
Right.
and even promoted it. So yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't even know how many times I had read that, and then I read it another time, and I was like, wow, that is absolutely profound. That God is putting allowing a lying spirit to go into the mouth of, but on the other hand, that's what they're looking for. They want to hear good things. Like Ahab's like, oh geez, I don't want to hear this prophet of God. He always talks negative. He never gives me anything I want to hear. Why? It's because they want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want. That's like most of the people in our day. They don't want to hear. They only want to hear what they want to hear, and that's what it even says in the Bible is. They only want to hear soothing things, only things to make them happy. You never want to hear something bad, especially about yourself.
Yeah, teach
Like,
us
things.
Yeah, teach us things easy to understand. We don't want to know
Right.
we don't want to know the deeper meanings. And along with what you're saying here now is so that we kind of clarify why this happens. God isn't being tested here. He says testing here with to see what he'll do. But what the point is to find out who we are. That's the whole idea. So if evil is presented to you, even if God presents it to you, you should say no, thank you. That's that. I don't think I want to do that. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. God even says, "Come and reason with me. Come argue with me. Come. Let's argue. Let's talk like men. I'm not you. We're supposed to have a fear of God, but not a fear like as in trembling and being scared. It's more of having an awe of him because he is going to reveal the absolute truth to you. And that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of hearing the truth, I think.
Yeah, that's actually what the Hebrew word means. It means more reverence, awe, not fear, and like you're quaking in your boots and scared to death. So that's
Right.
it can come to that, under certain circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
But the real idea is awe and reverence. Yes, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So to get back to what's happening in the world is these rulers, these so-called rulers, they're in opposition of God, and they have us. They have those who are the children. Of course, we're all children of God, but they have us in such confusion that we fight amongst each other instead of us realizing that we're all on different levels of understanding, like the word university, like the school, going to school, the university. The word means to be unified in your diversity, and I don't think any of us have that anymore. And that's something that the evil uses to further disrupt what we're supposed to do. Instead of they're causing us to fight amongst each other instead of having unity in our diversity, as in different levels of understanding. Like you can read the Bible and argue about different points of it, but you may be on the same. What I'm saying is, you'll have a different level of understanding, and there's a conflict because of that. We're not understanding that, there's many different levels of understanding in God's word, and I think that's a lot of problems that people have.
Yeah, I agree with that, and just to have a little break here, Jeremy, because we've been going for about an hour. I don't know if it's up to you whether you'd want to talk about this, but the reason why I'd be willing to have you do it, of course, and you don't look on it as a matter of pride or trying to convince anybody that you're special or anything, but People need to hear, I think, if God hasn't told you that you can't do it, they need to hear about people who have actually had encounters with Him. Because
sure.
I think that's faith promoting. And again, it's not that you're using it to say that what you're giving us here today is the rock solid 100% truth. We're not asking people to believe that. We're asking people to search a little deeper, and especially deeper than their preachers and their priests and their ministers take them. That's what we're saying. But I think if you would feel comfortable with that, I think the audience here, the people that are listening, would like to hear about your encounter with Him if you give us that a little bit, if you don't mind. And I was there when this
Yeah,
happened. I was there when this happened. So go ahead, Jeremy, if you'd like to talk about it.
yeah. I was about 3.5 years old, and I'm sitting in my bed, totally wide awake, and literally with my eyes, I see, it's kind of like a misty, cloudy kind of thing. And just on a side note, what I would say is, in the light spectrum, we see just a fraction of this light spectrum. So I think when people are having uh, when they die and they see that light at the end of the tunnel, but then for some reason they come back, but it's kind of like that. Kind of, I guess it would be like that, kind of cloudy, misty, but then it clears up. And I see who I understand is Jesus, and there's two others with him, and he's talking to me, and I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, I couldn't tell you what he said, if that makes sense. It's something that was spoken to the spirit, and there's a woman dancing, and I'm crying, "Don't take her from me! Don't take her from me!" And this I do remember. He said, "I would never do that. I will not take her from you." And when I was little, I thought it was my sister. But now that I'm older, I understand now that it was the Holy Spirit, that he wouldn't take her from me. Because the Holy Spirit has the feminine attributes. The Holy Spirit's the comforter, the nurturer. And I was crying for her to not be taken from me. And he told me, "No, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to take her from you." It took a long time for me to understand that, but now that I do, it makes perfect sense.
And I might
And
add
I
that,
don't,
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
no, I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there would be upset about calling the Holy Spirit a feminine, but that's, when you look at the Hebrew, it's feminine.
Yes, absolutely 100% correct. And
And
I,
and uh, and and I learned that before I even realized that the Holy Spirit was feminine with the attributes and all that.
what's interesting here is that this situation that happened to you, a similar situation happened to me around that same time, and I've discussed it before. You know about it, Jeremy, and some of the people that have followed me for a while, talking about this individual coming through the veil and having two with him. That I had a similar experience like that. Mine was a spanking, as I've told you before, where yours was a comforting. Yeah, it was comforting for me too, but for you it was a little 3.5, 4-year-old boy being given a testimony that God exists and that He is interested in us and in our lives and in the affairs that are going on here.
Yeah, I would like to speak of another vision that I have, and I call it the castle vision. But first, another thing with Psalms 82, I would like to read it in Isaiah 24, verse 21, and this has to do with Psalms 82. And God says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. So that's saying, that's bringing the spiritual into the physical. He's
Right.
speaking about the hosts in heaven who are in defiance of God are going to be punished, just like the kings of the earth who are in defiance are going to be punished.
So that's tying in again Psalms 82, which is
Yep.
why it's so important to understand this whole concept of the gods and the assembly of the gods, the council of the gods, and the fact that what we're seeing on earth now is but a mirror image almost, which some people would say is an evil statement, but it really is being projected on the earth. And people will say, well, it's a satanic thing, you know, when they say that as above, as below. And I get a chuckle out of that because, of course, the evil side always absconds with God's truth and then twists a little bit. In fact, if Jesus, for those who are Christian or believe that that's important, that Jesus is the Son of God or God Himself, He's the one that said in the Lord's Prayer, right? He said, and I'll just recite it here, Our Father in heaven, you will bring your kingdom onto earth as it is in heaven.
Right.
So there is the statement, as above, so below. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's as it is above, so below.
Right. And before I forget, I'm not going to go really far into it, but because I'm sure I'll forget some of the things that happened. But with the Garden of Eden, God put it on me that, you know, a lot of people when they're you know, you have a loved one pass, and you'll feel their presence. Sometimes people can even smell their loved one that has passed. And God put it on me through speaking with somebody about all of this. And He put it on me that, you know how you talk about the circular versus linear, that just like what kind of when we opened up here about Genesis 1:1, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's everything. It's said and done. That's the circular. So what he put on me was that the Garden of Eden is here already. It's already here. We just can't see it. Like I said earlier, we can only see in this very small light spectrum. But me and a fellow employee were working together, and we were talking about this kind of stuff, and it kind of smacked me in the face that, you know, the earth is our inheritance, the earth is ours, and our loved ones are already in paradise here on this earth. We just can't see it, but they are watching us. They are with you still. You've had that experience. I'm sure a lot of listeners have had that experience. My sister, your daughter, has had that experience of a loved one reaching out to them. And a lot of times we're told that, oh, these are demonic. It's demonic. They're copying just to fool you and stuff like that. But no, I really think that I really believe that with this circular versus linear, that it's already done. We're all there. We've already gotten our inheritance. The war has been won. We're just fulfilling that. We're in the process of fulfilling what it needs to be done, yet it's already done at the same time. I know that might sound
No, that makes sense. Again, it's the proof. Yeah, we're proving to ourselves who we are. God already knows. We're showing ourselves who we really are. And if you want to talk about your vision about the castle, please do so. I think that's important too.
Okay. Actually, let me see.
Sorry if I'm making you rush through anything there, Jeremy.
No, no, no. Actually, I have it all written down if you'd like me to read it.
Yeah, go ahead if you'd like to. You might
Yeah,
preface it with just explaining maybe what was going on. Well, not just go ahead and read it. I think that'd be fine.
yeah, and again, I believe that this connects with Psalms 82. I really believe that almost every aspect of our lives reach into Psalms 82 because we're participants in this battle, in this gathering of the nations. We are participants in it, and I believe that this vision can show that on a different level. Now, just to set this up, I'm going to talk about this warrior, and I'm not saying that I'm him, but I'm seeing through this warrior's eyes. So, and the vision, I had it, and I was like 20 years old, and so it's almost 30 years ago.
You didn't
And
have to tell us your age now. Then you're telling them how old I am.
right?
Go ahead. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So for a long time, I never thought about it too much or anything, and one day it was put on me to just write it all down. So I pretty much just wrote it down how I remember it, and I think you'll all find this really interesting. Okay, so it's foggy. It kind of like what I said before about the vision when I was 3.5. It was like a fog, kind of cloudy. But anyways, okay, here we go. The fog was so thick in the air that any man not set in mind, body, and spirit would surely suffocate with madness and face certain death. Time seeming to slow almost to the point of stopping. A fire burned in the soul of each man in this small group. They were on foot as to feel every small change in their surroundings, as they knew death could swallow them at any moment. Suddenly, the choking fog began to dissipate. Swords in hand, each man making his way into the open air. In their horror and unbelieving eyes, the men saw their homeland utterly destroyed. Everything in view was unnatural. The castle and land were completely covered in evil. And so to step out of that for a minute, if going from the garden of God, where Adam and Eve were, and then to see your homeland destroyed, that's kind of how we're seeing this world right now. Me, my own self, for instance, look at this world and say, you know what, this is my home, but something's not right. So, anyways, to continue. The castle and land were completely covered in evil. Nothing growing, no trees, no grass, nothing. The castle was surrounded by complete darkness. Not that you couldn't see, but complete evil. The mighty warrior at the front of this small group of men took off like an arrow shot out of a bow, running straight for the castle, sword in hand. The other men desperately trying to keep up as their leader was in a headlong race for the castle. Suddenly, out of nowhere, out of the ground, came thousands of unearthly, ungodly-looking creatures with hate and destruction in their ugly faces. Without missing a step, the mighty warrior carved a path through the ungodly horror. His sword sang the song of death as it destroyed everything in its path. The other men with him finally catching up to join their leader and help carve the way through this unnatural horde of evil. From a bird's eye view, the scene looked utterly hopeless in reaching the castle. The warriors slowing in their progress of breaching the bridge due to the overwhelming number of this thick, demon-infested gathering of destruction. The leader of these men never took their eyes off of his goal, the castle. The men were suffering great pain as the snarling, razor-like teeth and claws ripped the flesh from their bodies as they had no armor or shields to slow them down. The scene was that of a giant tornado of flying, distorted bodies, with its center being a whirlwind of flashing steel sinking into unnatural, stinking flesh. The men in the center of this tornado of battle, slowly pushing forward with great focus and determination, swords flashing and smashing in every direction. It seemed to take hours, but in reality only a short time, as they were guided in their holy mission. Suddenly, the men, bleeding, exhausted, made a final desperate push forward with swords slashing, found themselves on the bridge and immediately disappearing inside the mouth of the castle. Once inside the castle, the men took only a moment to reflect of their lives leading up to this point, a reflection of past years and special moments in their quest leading up to this moment in time, thinking of their wives and their children and friends. Their leader also remembered these times. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here. Their leader also remembering these times and also felt his heart pulling him to do this job that God sent him to do. Suddenly, jolted back into their reality, they saw each other covered in his and his brother's blood. They could feel the heaviness of the evil surrounding their very beings. In front of them were two sets of stairs, one left, one right, in this huge entrance of the castle, very dark and gloomy, even sinister. It used to be a place of beauty and safety, not anymore. Something needed to change. Suddenly, the men were on the move. Their leader went straight to the stairs on the left and ascended with great speed and silence. The others followed with no hesitation. The only sound they made was the sound from their breathing as it was heavy from the fierce battle they had just gone through, and the heaviness of the atmosphere. At the top of the staircase, they turned left and went down the long hallway. There was a feeling of madness about to take over them. The feeling like madness about to take over them was ever so present. It was a battle of the mind at this point. All of the horrible thoughts went through their minds. Not their brave leader. He had one thought going through his mind, and it was to destroy this evil and restore the land as it was. He knew the battle ahead was for everything, and there was no other way. They passed several rooms as they raced down the hallway, not paying any attention to any of the doors until this door. This door, the mighty warrior stopped at and gazed at for a split second before opening it. As the door swung open, a dark, gloomy, sinister, invisible wave hit the men, and it knocked most of them to the ground, and the others were drained to the point of unconsciousness. Their leader stood his ground, yet struggled to keep his own sanity, pushing through the darkness running through his mind and upholding to the truth and righteousness of all goodness. All evil and wickedness that was attacking him fled. He now felt different. He felt humbled and strengthened and renewed. He turned to two of his men and helped them up. Then he turned, facing the doorway, and entered. The mighty warrior quickly gazed around the room, eyes searching for any unearthly enemies. To his surprise, his gazing eyes rested on a woman sitting on a bed with her back against the headboard. She was not startled or surprised to see that she had visitors. Their eyes locked. He knew this woman. She once was a very well-respected, powerful, and loving woman, but now her burning, bloodshot eyes full of hate and disgust for anything good. She was obviously under the control of a very powerful, evil entity. How could this be? Her heart was full of love. Her heart was full of love for all things, and now this? The only thing he could do was smile at her with absolute love. One of his men ran to the right side of the bed and sat in a chair and just looked at her in disbelief. The warrior turned to the right and walked through the room toward the door that was in the floor. Reaching down, he grabbed the handle and swung it open. He did all of this without ever taking his eyes off of her. He then peered down the hole in the floor and began to descend the rocky steps. After going a few steps, he had a very strong feeling to go back into the room. He sprang back up the steps and into the room. The woman had grabbed the man sitting next to her by the arm, and whatever had controlled her was suddenly taking control of him also. The warrior very calmly walked over to them, still smiling, and looked at her, reached out with his powerful hands, and ever so gently removed her grip from the man. Suddenly, the look on her face and eyes began to change. Her life was beginning to come back to her. Now it was time to go down into the blackness of that stairway and the floor. Sword in hand, the warrior began descending this cave-like stairway. On his way down, he started to notice it getting hotter and hotter, and a powerful wind began to blow. It was now blowing so hard that he could not even hear his own thoughts. His thick, long, blood-stained hair sounded like the snapping of many whips as the unnatural vortex of air streamed past him. He pressed himself downward, using the sides of the passageway to climb down. Up ahead, he saw the opening of the passageway. As quickly as the strange wind started, it ended. He could now hear, and what he heard, he could not understand. With his sword leading the way, he made his way out and found himself in a very large underground chamber, the size of about a stadium. His eyes had never before seen anything like this. On one side of the room, he saw two steps running the entire length of the room. And on the upper area, all kinds of different things unknown to him. He also saw a hideous, awful-looking, disfigured man. All his attention was looking back toward the other side of the room. On the other side of the giant room, almost split in half, he saw an unnatural sight, not meant for human eyes to see. What this disfigured man was looking at, actually conjuring, was unbelievable. The ground had the appearance of water, a dark water. And out towards the far side of the room, the dark water shot straight up into the air. It was twisting around like a vertical hurricane. And at its center, it looked as if the twisted evil was giving birth to a living horror. All this happened within seconds. Suddenly, both of these abominations of evil turned their attention to this one man holding a sword in his hand. All at once, time seemed to stop, and the warrior stared in amazement. It seemed that he could see in three different realities. It seemed through his left eye he could see all the darkness and all the horrors of hell. Through his right eye he could see the bright light and peace and happiness of heaven. And at the same time he could see through his own fleshly eyes. Then he noticed the same with his hearing. The left could hear the awful sounds, and the right the wonderful sounds, and his fleshly ears the sound of his surroundings.
Let me stop you there for a minute, Jeremy. People are wondering how long this is going to go, but I just want to say something to them. if you don't understand metaphor and allegory and the way the Spirit works, Kai, bro, you said this isn't enlightening. Uh, you apparently haven't had or don't understand how, if you've ever had a dream, sometimes it doesn't make sense because there are things happening in that realm that you are not in tune with. So what this story is telling you, and the reason why it's so intricate, is because it's not something that was written down as a story. It is a vision, and it's a vision of our condition now. So because you don't think it's enlightening, it's because you don't understand the metaphor and the allegories, the similes. You don't understand very much about prophecy or about how these things are related to our reality. So I'm not going to have Jeremy go much further. If you're not appreciating what he's telling you, then I think that's probably indicative of the fact that we shouldn't be wasting our time. Okay. So Jeremy, maybe you could just jump ahead and tell us how you interpret this vision that you had, rather than going into any more detail.
Sure. Basically, this is an individual battle that each one of us are going through. Like I was getting to how this warrior could see in different, he could see the evil and he could see the good. But what ultimately happens through the vision is God reveals himself to this warrior, and he tells him, hey, the good and the evil, they're both working against you. I'm the truth, not this good and the evil. If I would have been able to continue, the ultimate part of the vision was that God reveals himself to this warrior, which is in turn each one of us, and he tells you, the good and the evil are both trying to trap you. Well, what are we involved with in this world? There's evil and there's good, and both of the good, supposed good, are trying to deceive you. God is the truth, and that's what happens in this vision. Is God reveals himself to the warrior and says, it's neither both of the good and the evil. They're both trying to enslave you. I'm the truth, and once the warrior realizes that, he overcomes this predicament that he's in, and
Yeah.
He
And I appreciate you explaining the overall meaning, Jeremy. Some people, it's interesting. I think a lot of and I'm not saying that a lot of the folks on here are doing that. This was a specific. There were one or two people that were saying this. They've never read. They say that they're godly, spiritual people. They say they read the Bible, but they really don't. They read the words, but they don't understand their meaning, nor do they seek the deeper understanding. As Jesus said about the parables, it's, he was talking to the people, and the disciples said, well, will you tell us what that means? And he says, yeah, I'll tell you, but for them, it's not to be known. So for some of these folks on here, I don't think they're capable of understanding the point, but I think what you said here is very obvious, and we see it in the world today. And it's basically a summary of what's happening in the world today, that we have these two forces pulling on us. And some people see, and this is where it gets complicated, but I think you'll agree, people call evil good and good evil, right? Well, what that's saying is, of course, is that the people that are evil will see their side as being good, and the people that are good will you see the point there. So what's happening, if I can kind of put a summary on this, is that, and how most everybody on my channel knows how I feel about Trump. I loathe him because he pretended to be something he is not. Yet we have Biden, for instance, over here, and it's manifest evil in Biden. So what do we do when we have? Do we go with Trump because he's the lesser of two evils, or we see him as a good when he's done the things that I'm not going to summarize here or go over. I've done that plenty of times. Or do we go with Biden? Well, in other words, these are the two forces in the world, and you taking. I saw somebody here say, "Well, we're not supposed to be in the world." No, you're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. Okay, being
Right.
here is what you're supposed to do. Being in the world, you are supposed to be here, but you're not supposed to be of the world. And what it means by that is of the world of these two forces that are fighting for you. You've got to find God and go with Him. Does that summarize it pretty well, Jeremy?
Yeah, that summarizes it, because there's a lot of things that look good, but they're bad. So that's basically what the vision was going for was, look, there's evil and there's good, but it's not truth.
Right.
You
So,
know, and the supposed good and the evil are going to wrap around you and pull you down, but God's the one who is going to set you free.
and I think that if they had just let that go on, they would have gotten that from. But it's probably better we went ahead and summarized it up anyway. Um,
Sure.
so, like I've often said, and we started off on this, the mind can only endure or absorb what the seat can endure. And I got to tell you, the real problem is that there is a heck of a windstorm coming in here. It sounds like the roof is about ready to come off the house. so chances are that I could get the internet interrupted here. As a matter of fact, I think some people have seen that it's gone on buffering a couple times, which I think I told you, Jeremy. When I see that, it's usually a warning from the powers that be not to go much further. But in this case, I think it has to do with the storm that's coming in, which is going to be a doozy. So maybe we should stop here, and maybe what I'll do is, I know you have so much, folks. If you could sit down with Jeremy and talk with him, you would have hours and hours of fascinating interaction. That's how it would be. These dreams and visions that he has, he's kept quiet for obviously, many decades. And to hear them, I can just imagine Jesus sitting there talking the Beatitudes, and some people would be bored with that because they don't understand what's being told to them. Not everybody on our channel here has done that today, but I think we can stop here and let people reflect on not only our discussion of Psalms 82 and the assembly of the gods, and how we are the gods in those assemblies, and that there are those that are good fruit and those who are bad fruit, but also that you have some insights because of some really special events that have happened to you personally. So maybe if you do us a favor and just sum up for today, and we'll probably carry on with this and maybe a little more detail probably next week. But if you could sum up, if you could kind of tell us, Jeremy, the connection between Psalms 82 and what's happening in the world today, and then we'll kind of end it on that.
Sure. Yeah. The war in heaven projected onto the earth is, to sum it up, is really what I said before. God's not forcing us to do anything, but He's given us opportunity to participate in what He's doing. And I could sum it up with this: if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. That to me goes kind of what we're talking about earlier of the circular versus the linear. Is the Garden of Eden is here? We just can't see it, and it's going to be healed. Our land is going to be healed and given back to us. And all of these supposed leaders are against you. They are literal pawns of the of the fallen in the heavenly realms, deceiving the children of God, making us not want to listen to each other, what we have to say, our own experiences. They get us to war against each other when we're supposed to be warring against the enemy, and nothing's more heartbreaking than that. Is having a brother or a sister or a best friend to stab you in the back. I don't know what's worse than that. When somebody you know is evil comes and hurts you, you're not surprised. But when your own family, your own flesh and blood, your own friends, your own fellow believers stab you in the back, that kind of hurts more than anything. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and people are asking if you have a YouTube site or somewhere they can view your work. And I don't know how much you want to say. I will say that he did at one time. I don't know if it's still active, Jeremy, honestly, but he was persecuted so badly for it. Not that he wanted to be silent, but that he thought it was in his better judgment to maybe temporarily, at least, pause it. So, am I saying that about right, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, it's my name, Jeremy Potter, and the little I'll give you have a little picture on there of your channel. It's actually from a book cover with if everybody knows who Conan the Barbarian is, it's actually one of those books, and it's Conan is standing there with a huge serpent with its head pointed towards him, and I use that picture because I feel like that's where we're at, as mankind, with the serpent looming over you, and he's chained up. So that's my YouTube channel. It's my name. There's other Jeremy Potters, but you'll know mine by that. What is it called? Your little picture of your YouTube channel.
Oh,
I don't know,
the
your
avatar.
icon or whatever.
Yeah, icon or the avatar. Yeah, yeah.
That's the way you'll know it's mine. And it's a reddish color, so yeah, you'll know that it's mine. And all my writings I put on there. The castle vision that I was reading is on there. I read it to the audience. So yeah, it's there still. So if anybody would want to look at it, and I also put all of my the visions that I've had are on there too.
So it's on YouTube, and it's Jeremy Potter, and you'll know which one it is by the content. Jeremy, I want to thank you for doing this today. You called up with so much anticipation, and you wanted to say so much, and I particularly appreciate the fact that you do this today. And we will do it again. We'll probably take it to a slightly different level next time, but I think you've summed up basically what the point is here, and that is that we're here now. We were part of that council before, and we're here now to experience it and to find out if we're the ones that are stealing from the needy, and if we're going to be that type, or if we're going to be the type that are out there doing the best we can to help our fellow brothers and sisters. And that's really what
right.
we are. We are family.
Yeah, and we're all born into this world. And my understanding is, when God said, "Let there be light," all of God's family was created at that moment. And to come here, we've essentially passed through like a veil of forgetfulness. We don't remember where we're from. We don't remember that all of those things in the heavenly realm. And we're here to come to remembrance of that you are a special person. You have meaning. In this world, sometimes we can feel like, oh, why am I here? I don't have any use. But guess what? You are here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. God loves you. He wants you to fulfill your duty that you've come here for, and that's just to participate in what he's in his will. No matter what that is, like I said earlier, where it could be just opening the door for somebody, or saying hello, or it could be like some major thing that the whole world might see. But you're special and unique. You yourself are unique, and we're to come to remembrance. Not as a prideful thing, but as hey, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of the Most High, and to on a personal level to realize that you're in God's eye. Everything that He's done has been specifically for you. Not, of course, it's done for everybody, but it's a personal level. It's all of this has been done for you specifically.
And I think that's right. It's you can think the world was placed here just for your experience, and it always is tailored for you. And I might end by saying this, if I may. Some people might ask why I do what I do, why Jeremy does what he does, why Michael Heiser did what he did, Pastor Chuck Baldwin, and any number of other people. It really is in the DNA. How do whales navigate the ocean? How do dolphins navigate the ocean? How do birds know when to fly south for the winter? And how do they find their way back? How does the salmon know where to go to spawn? Even those who have never been there before, they know because it's written in their DNA. They are what that is. And it's no different in God's children. Those who do what Jeremy does, and Michael Heiser, etc. And they're not saying that they know the absolute truth. They're on that path, but it's in their DNA to do what they do. In other words,
right.
By their fruits, you'll know them. And that's really important. Jeremy, I want to thank you for... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's a hunger. It's a wanting. It's a void that needs to be filled inside of each one of us. And what is that? To realize who we are and who our Father in heaven is.
Yes.
That's the big thing. And to understand that in this world, this fallen world, we're in a literal battle for our lives to, in this big old world there, and God has one thing that Michael Heiser said is somebody asked him, well, how does God know who's going to go to heaven? And he said, well, you show up.
Yeah, that's right. I've actually quoted him several times. That's exactly right. All right. We'll end it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jeremy, for coming on. Like I say, we'll do something similar to this in the not too far distant future. Be aware of what's going on. Take care of yourselves. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. That's going to be really important, especially with what's coming up. And prep, pray, and stay out of the way. Jeremy, thanks for being here. We're going to sign off. You all take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye, everybody.